everyone, this is Jillian with Court Junkie. Court Junkie is a true crime podcast that covers court cases and criminal trials using audio clips and interviews with people close to the cases. Court Junkie is available on Apple Podcasts and podcastone.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 255 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I am hanging in there.
Yeah, good.
Doing the best I can. I'm down 12 pounds.
That's awesome.
Which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
I'm eating right. I'm working out a little bit. So,
doing what you need to be doing.
Doing what I need to be doing. I feel good about myself.
That's good.
Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Bailey Terrasses.
Hey, Terrasses.
Lauren Otto.
What's up, Lauren?
Logan Johnson.
Hey, Logan.
Tony C.
What's up, Tony C?
Red Dahlia.
Ooh, the Red Dahlia.
Melanie Phillips.
What's going on, Melanie?
Stephanie Ferreira.
Well, thank you, Ferrero.
Susan Boyle.
Oh, the famous singer. Thanks, Susan.
Lunday Floyd.
I like that name, Lunday.
Laenya.
Oh, got it. Laenya also.
Yep. Lindsay Tomlinson.
Hey, Lindsay.
Mary Owen.
Hey, Mary.
Jenny Finnegan.
Well, thanks, Finnegan.
Brooke Keene.
Hey, Brooke.
Kristen Davis.
Appreciate that, Kristen.
And last but not least, Claire Sexton.
Well, hi, Claire.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Michael Millhouse.
Well, thanks, Millhouse. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate the new support, the continued support. We also had some great PayPal donations from Julie Shantz.
Hey, thanks, Julie.
Heather Allen.
Appreciate that, Heather.
And Lynn Wilson.
Thanks, Lynn.
Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time, we have a pretty infamous case out on Leopold and Loeb.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting case.
It is. I mean, it's pretty famous, infamous, goes back to the 1920s, but you've got two young people, two young guys who decide that they're going to try to commit the perfect crime. And in doing so, they kill a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah. Just because they want to know what it feels like.
Yeah, for the thrill of it.
Yeah.
I think that was shocking to many, many people. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am ready.
We're talking about the unsolved Tynong North and Frankston murders in Australia. In 1980, 6 women vanished in Tynong North and Frankston, Victoria, Australia. Their bodies were found weeks, months, and in one case, years later. Their killer has never been identified, despite multiple suspects, a $6 million reward, and the pleas of family members over the decades. No one has come forward, no one has confessed, and no one has provided any viable information. The Tynong North and Frankston murders remain one of Australia's most infamous unsolved cases.
$6 million, man.
That is a big, big reward, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go along. Now, the following is a timeline of each victim's disappearance and when they were found. On May 30th, 1980, 60-year-old Allison Rook was seen leaving her home on Hannah Street in Frankston North at 11 a.m. Allison told her friends she was going to take a bus from the Hannah Street and Frankston Dandenong Road bus stop to the Frankston shops. Apparently, Allison was having car trouble and had to rely on public transportation for a few days. She needed to do some grocery shopping and pay a bill with her real estate agent. But Allison never placed her grocery order and she didn't pay her bill. The bus driver, when asked, couldn't remember picking her up. Then on July 5th, 1980, Allison Rook's body was found by a man who was out walking his dogs, she was partially concealed in some scrubland near McClellan Drive, Frankston.
And you got to wonder if her car didn't break down. Would this have ever happened?
Well, it's a good question to ask, right? I mean, did somebody spot her walking to the bus stop, target her, grab her? Well, that may not have happened if her car was working and she just walked out, got in her car, and drove away. On August 10th, 1980, 75-year-old Bertha Miller was last seen leaving her home on Cardinia Road in Glen Iris at 10:15 a.m. She was set to take a tram from Malvern Road and High Street to the Wesleyan Methodist Church in Paran. Bertha was a Sunday school teacher at the church. She lived with her brother-in-law, William Ross. Before she left, Bertha called out to William, who was in the shower, and said that she was headed off to church. She said she'd be home late, so he didn't need to wait on her to eat lunch. Bertha and her friend Jessie Moore always rode the tram together, and they had done so for about the past 10 years. At 10:47 a.m., Bertha boarded the tram at the terminus. A shopkeeper witnessed her making the quarter-mile walk to the tram stop. Jessie Moore boarded the tram at her stop, expecting to meet Bertha, but she wasn't there. In 2017, Inspector Mick Hughes reported that Bertha was previously approached by a man at the tram station who saw her carrying a Bible. I guess this is an encounter that Bertha told a friend about. She felt like she had an opportunity to talk about Christianity with this man. The police have never identified this person, but they do believe he may have had something to do with what happened to Bertha. On August 28th, 1980, 14-year-old Catherine Headland was last seen leaving her boyfriend's home at High Street in Berwick at 11 a.m. Catherine lived with her mother and brother on Allen Street in Berwick. She worked part-time at the Kohl's supermarket in the Fountain Gate Shopping Center. August 28th was a school holiday, so Catherine was scheduled to work on a weekday instead of the weekends, as she normally did. She wasn't supposed to start work until 12 p.m., but she left home at 9:30 a.m. to visit her boyfriend, John McManus. John lived on High Street, about a 1-mile walk from Catherine's house. When she got there, John had a few friends over. They all watched TV. They listened to some records. Catherine left at 11:10 a.m. to walk to the bus stop at the corner of Manuka Road and High Street. She was going to take the 11:20 bus from Princess Street in Berwick and High Street to the Fountain Gate Shopping Center. But Catherine was never seen again.
So I've noticed that we're seeing that so far everybody is walking somewhere using foot traffic.
And it's thought that they are all going to, or were going to, get on a bus.
Yeah. I did find it interesting that the first two victims were 60 and 75. Now we're down to 14. So obviously age is not a concern of the killer.
Or not a focus.
A focus, yeah.
Yeah, if this is the same killer. And we do see that it differs with killers, right? Some killers prefer a specific age range that sometimes is very narrow. Some killers don't care. The age range of their victims can span greatly.
Yeah, as this one does.
On October 6, 1980, 18-year-old Anne-Marie Sargent was last seen leaving her mother's house on Canburn Drive in Canburn at 9:30 a.m. Anne-Marie lived with family friends on Railway Road in the outer southeastern suburb of Canburn, Melbourne. She was unemployed, and she was looking for a job. On that day, the 6th, she visited her mother's house on Canburn Drive. Anne-Marie told her mom she was going to take a bus to the CES employment office in Dandenong to collect her unemployment check and then go to the Clyde post office. She said she'd come back later that day to pick up some clothes. Anne-Marie chose to either walk or hitchhike because she didn't have enough money for the bus. It was also said, Gibbs, that she enjoyed going on walks. So it wouldn't be surprising if she chose to walk that day. It is known that Anne Marie did pick up her check at the unemployment center. She also filled out a form, but she never made it to the post office.
So it kind of tells you, right, that something happened from the time she was at the employment office to the time she actually was supposed to go to the post office.
Yeah, and police later theorized that she was most likely kidnapped in between these 2 points, walking along Princess Highway. On November 29th, 1980, 34-year-old Narimal Stevenson was last seen outside a friend's house on Park Street in Brunswick in the early morning hours. Narimal was born in Thailand. She married Wayne Stevenson in Thailand in 1978 and moved to Australia in 1979. They lived on a farm in Deans Marsh, southwest of Melbourne. On November 28th, they visited Melbourne to attend a concert with another couple. In the early morning hours of the 29th, they visited a friend's apartment on Park Street in Brunswick. Narimal was upset about something and refused to get out of the car to go into the friend's apartment. When they got there, Wayne and the other couple went inside. They drank wine. They had some coffee together. Wayne came down 3 different times to check on Narimal. The first time he came down, he saw her walking down the street. The second time he came down, he said he saw her speaking Thai to a man in a car. The man had a European accent. And then the third time he came down, he sat in the call with Narimal until it was almost dawn. She still refused to enter the apartment and stayed in the car. So Wayne went upstairs and fell asleep. Just after 6 a.m., Wayne said that he came back down to check on her and she was gone. As Wayne Stevenson told The Age, he reported to the police, "I saw her talking to a guy in a car just up the road a bit. I walked up to her and saw that the front passenger side door of the car was open and she was talking to the guy." On December 6, 1980, 2 men were dumping animal remains in scrubland near an old sand quarry off Brew Road in Tynong North. One of them found 2 sets of human remains and they called the police. The remains were so decomposed that homicide detectives could not determine a cause of death. But the police identified the bodies of Bertha Miller and Catherine Headland on December 7th. Catherine and Berta were found on their backs, covered by branches. After additional searching, detectives located and identified Anne Marie Sargent at the very same location.
It's almost like a killing field.
Well, when you find 3 bodies in the very same location, what else are police to think? You know, we got a serial killer on the loose, and we just found his dumping ground.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they could have thought. On October 9th, 1981, 55-year-old Joy Carmel Summers was last seen at a bus stop at Chile Street and Frankston Dandenong Road in Frankston at 1 p.m. Joy was going to take a bus to the Frankston shops. She lived about a kilometer from Allison, but they didn't know each other. Joy normally went shopping with her friend William Cotter every Friday. On October 9th, 1981, Cotter had a doctor's appointment and couldn't go. So Joy decided she would still go to the butcher shop. This was Joy's first shopping trip alone since she suffered a stroke in the 1970s. Neighbors saw her leave her home and go to the bus stop, which was about 100 meters away. Joy was seen at the bus stop at 1:20 p.m., but the bus driver couldn't remember picking her up, and Joy never placed her order at the butcher shop. On November 22nd, 1981, a man collecting firewood found Joy's body. She was found naked in thick scrubland near Sky Road and McClellan Drive in Frankston North. This was about 3 kilometers from where Allison Rook was found. Then on February 3rd, 1983, professor and former AFL footballer Barry Davis pulled to the side of Brew Road because he had a flat tire. Davis decided to take a walk while his friend went to borrow a jack from someone. He walked about 50 meters and came to a dead end. While he was on his way back, he saw a bone sticking out of a bush. Davis was a senior lecturer in anatomy and physiology at the Phillips Institute of Technology. Gibbs, he immediately recognized it as a human thigh bone. He took it to the Warrigal police station where officers confirmed the bone was human. And these remains were eventually identified as Narimal Stevenson.
You imagine finding a bone, you're changing your tire, you're walking around, you know.
Yeah, you and I talk about it quite a bit. I mean, you're just having a normal day. We all have them every single day. We have some surprises here and there. This is a life-altering event. You found the remains of a deceased individual.
Yeah.
Now, what I go back to is the fact that this guy was a lecturer in anatomy and physiology. So right away, he knew what he was looking at.
Sure he did.
Would most of us know for sure whether it was human, whether it was animal? I don't know. I just had somebody the other day on Facebook send me pictures of some bones.
Yeah.
Wanting to know from me whether they were human or animal. I don't know because I don't have that kind of training.
Exactly. You don't have that knowledge base.
No. Now, what I will say is a thigh bone is pretty large. So I think a lot of people would look at that and say, okay, that looks like a human bone, but.
And I know the thigh bone's connected to the hip bone and the
knee bone. But other than that, how much do you really know?
That's it. Just the song.
Just the song. So Gibbs, you have a number of homicides occurring so close to each other in a relatively short period of time. So both location and timing, the Victoria police believe that they were all connected. You mentioned it already, right? Each victim was walking or taking public transportation. They didn't have access to a car. All the bodies were dumped in scrubland. And there was no doubt that the killer definitely made attempts to conceal the bodies' locations and identities, but not all that well in some of the cases. This case defied traditional serial killer profiles. Most killers take their victims at night. All of these victims, excluding Narimal Stevenson, were kidnapped in broad daylight. All victims except Narimal were going to use public transportation. And I think I said it earlier, right? Normally, serial killers have a preferred victim type. The victims in this case ranged in both age and race. The older women were found clothed, while the younger women were not. And each of the victims had some type of personal items removed from their bodies.
So we're all over the board.
We're all over the board, but we do have some connections, right? The public transportation is there in almost everyone. The removal of personal items. That's a serial killer thing. You and I talk about it on True Crime All the Time in many, many episodes. The compulsion of a killer to take some type of personal item from their victim. It's thought that there are a number of reasons, but I think a lot of them center around wanting something to remember the act later on, whether they use it in some type of masturbatory fantasy or, something. It's sick.
It is.
But we know it happens.
But they got to have that keepsake.
They do. And in some cases, it often leads to their downfall, right? If during an investigation, the police search your house and they find driver's licenses, necklaces, earrings, rings that are, all tied back to these victims, okay, pretty hard to explain why you have all these items.
Exactly.
There are 4 main suspects in the Tynong North and Frankston murders. One is a quiet religious man with a dark side. One's a sex offender. One is a relative of one of the victims. And the last is a 4-time convicted killer.
We got a nice little mix of potential suspects.
Yeah, and we're going to get into and talk about all of them. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive. What's one thing you'd purchase with a little extra savings? A weighted blanket, smart speaker, that new self-care trend you keep hearing about? Well, Progressive wants to make sure you're getting what you want by helping you save money on car insurance. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. Discounts like having multiple vehicles on your policy. Progressive offers outstanding coverage and award-winning claim service. Day or night, they have customer support 24/7, 365 days a year. When you need them most, they're at their best. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations. Gibbs, how does that sound not make you smile? It has to. It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, and even established businesses can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. We've been using Shopify for a number of years now to sell our TCAT merchandise. It's a game changer. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. Just like ours, Shopify powers millions of businesses from first sale to full scale. And it's more than a store. Shopify grows with you. This is possibility. Powered by Shopify. Go to shopify.com/unsolved, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/unsolved right now. Shopify.com/unsolved. The first suspect was a guy by the name of Raymond Edmonds, convicted of murdering teenagers Abina Medill and Gary Haywood in 1966. But Edmonds wasn't arrested for these murders until 1985. Edmonds was known as Mr. Stinky or the Donvale Rapist.
Mr. Stinky.
Okay. That is a very strange moniker. I didn't see a lot about how it was derived, but I think you can kind of figure it out. This guy was a serial rapist. And after the fact, his victims must have described him as having very bad body odor. We've seen that before in a number of cases. Edmonds raped and killed people in Victoria from the mid-60s to the mid-80s. The police believe he was responsible for at least 32 rapes and a series of unsolved murders in the 19-year period before his arrest. Edmonds declined interviews after his conviction in 1986, but in 2018, he reached out to the police to confess to a number of unsolved sexual assaults. In total, Edmonds was convicted of 2 murders, 9 rapes, and a number of other violent crimes against women. Edmonds knew the area well because he worked and lived near Tynong North and Frankston. However, he moved to New South Wales in April 1980 and would have had to travel to Melbourne to commit the crimes. So to many people, that makes him an unlikely suspect. Not impossible.
No.
But they think, for him to travel from New South Wales to Melbourne to commit these murders is unlikely.
It's still a major piece of shit.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The Bayside News reported that the police also noted that he, quote, lacked the charm and interpersonal skills required to get the women into a vehicle without a significant struggle.
It wasn't a ladies' man.
Well, I don't know if he was a ladies' man, but I think what they're saying is, at a minimum, it would take a person who was capable of the interpersonal skills that you have to be able to talk to someone, put them at ease, right? To get them to make the decision to get into your vehicle. Another suspect is a relative of Bertha Miller named Gary Miller. Gary was Bertha's great-nephew. Vicki Miller Reed, Gary's wife, was close friends with Catherine Headland. Vicki was so close with Catherine that she named her daughter after her friend. Catherine and Bertha didn't know each other. They lived 37 kilometers apart, but were found just a few meters apart near Brew Road in Tynong North. Gary Miller knew two of the victims and was considered a suspect initially. He lived near Tynong North. Gary told the police he was working at a local factory when Bertha and Catherine disappeared. The police didn't fully believe him because the factory's timekeeping system was allegedly pretty easy to falsify.
Well, there was a lot of time systems back then that you could finagle. I know I worked at a place where it was easy to change the time you came and went.
Yeah, and this is something that has come up in a number of cases, right? In the past, people have often used as their alibi the timekeeping records at their place of employment. Okay, it's only logical. I've got a time card that says I was at this place from this time to this time. But you and I have talked about it. How easy would it be to get somebody to stamp it for you? It's happened time and time again over the years.
Sure, not a difficult thing. Hey, buddy, can you clock me in or clock me out, and I'll do it for you next time?
Yeah, and it's not normally for nefarious reasons such as murder or anything like that. It's because a person wants to leave early. They got something to do, but they don't want to be docked pay or they don't want to get in trouble. It has happened many, many times. The other thing was Gary Miller was only 17 years old at the time. So I think to some, it seemed unlikely that he would have murdered two women, one of them his relative. Gary was interviewed twice and cleared both times. Now, him being 17, to me, doesn't really discourage me in any way from thinking that he was capable of committing murder. We've seen many 17-year-olds and even younger people commit murder. You know, in a lot of these cases, you just wish you had more information, more details around the interviews and what police use to clear these suspects. A lot of times what is reported is merely the fact that they were cleared, not really everything that went into that clearing or what made police, drop them from the suspect list or anything like that. Bundali Debs is a 4-time convicted killer and armed robber. In 1995, he murdered sex worker Donna Hicks in Sydney and dumped her body in a sand quarry. In 1997, he killed sex worker Christy Hardy and hid her body in bushland. He was convicted of the 1998 murders of Sergeant Gary Silk and Senior Constable Rod Miller. During the Silk Miller investigation, he bragged about how to kill a woman. The Age reported that he said, if you put the rod in the mouth and blew her brains away, when you put the rod in their mouth and close their mouth, there's no noise. I've seen it. I've done it. Debs is also suspected of committing a series of armed robberies in the early 90s with his nephew. Debs was a suspect due to his penchant for opportunistic sexual violence. In 1980, he was in his late 20s. He wasn't convicted of his first crime until 1988, which meant at that point he was free to commit other crimes. Debs lived in Nary Warren, near Prince's Highway, where Catherine and Anne Marie were last seen. It's thought that Bertha Miller was also most likely abducted from a tram stop a few hundred meters away. And Deb's 2 confirmed victims were abducted from highways and dumped off main roads. Catherine and Anne Marie were taken from the busy Frankston-Dandenong Road. But as promising as this lead seems, there's no forensic evidence linking Bundali Debs to the murders.
But man, this guy had no cares in the world, man. He went after the women, but he also went after police.
And he bragged about it.
Yeah, he was happy.
You know, that statement that he made to the paper about putting a gun in a woman's mouth and then closing the mouth so that there would be no noise. it's graphic, it's brutal. But at the end, he said, I've seen it. I've done it. Almost as if he was bragging about it.
Yeah.
He was proud that he knew how to do that or had figured it out.
Almost like he was trying to educate people on it.
There's no doubt that you'd have to look at this guy as a real possibility. And, it's something that comes up in Unsolved episodes time and time again. The lack of forensic evidence doesn't clear someone, right? You can't say that he wasn't involved, but the fact that they haven't found any type of link also means that they can't say he was involved.
Well, he definitely had the ability to do it.
Yeah, he had the opportunity. He was free. He wasn't in prison, jail, anything like that. And we know he had the mental capacity to do it. If I'm even using the term correctly, I don't think he had any qualms about killing at all. But even so, Harold Janman is perhaps the most viable suspect. Janman was described as a quiet family man devoted to the church. However, he was once caught soliciting a sex worker. So those two things seem to be at odds with each other.
Sure. Extreme odds.
The police interviewed Janman on December 3rd, 1981. And the Age reported that Janman explained that he often offered women rides along Frankston Dandenong Road because he was a friendly guy and he just wanted to help people. Okay, Gibbs, there truly are people like that in this world.
Yes.
Very friendly. They see somebody walking down the street. Out of the goodness of their heart, they would stop and offer this person a ride.
Just want to try to help you out.
Sure. There are many people like that. But at the same time, if you were a serial killer and you had to explain something away, wouldn't you say the exact same thing? And I would say the answer is yes.
Yeah, of course.
Some people regarded him as a, quote, serial pest. That came up in the reporting. And it was interesting to some that Janman only started offering women rides in the early 1980s. Police were, of course, suspicious because Allison and Joy had disappeared from this very location. Janman agreed to drive with the police and point out 9 bus stops where he had offered women rides. Allison and Joy were waiting at 2 of those 9 bus stops. Janman said he went to the Frankston Bank around the time that Joy Summers disappeared. His wife confirmed his alibi, but bank records apparently did not verify this information. So, you could say that you went to the bank. You could tell your wife, hey, I'm going to the bank.
Right.
Would she then later say, when asked by police, hey, where was your husband during this time? He was at the bank.
Yeah, because he told me so.
Yeah. If my wife said she was going to the bank, I'd tell the police she was at the bank.
Right.
Now, why would they not be able to find financial records to verify that he performed some type of transaction while he was at the bank?
Well, maybe because he wasn't at the bank.
Or he went to the bank, but made the decision that he didn't want to do anything.
Right.
So, you can see why people, look at this guy and say, something's not quite right here. And it's the thing that I have with alibis all the time, right? Alibis are only as good as the individual who gives the alibi. In this case, his wife. Would she have a vested interest in protecting him? Maybe. But sometimes I think it's not even that. The alibi is only as good as the information that the person giving the alibi actually has.
Yeah.
So again, if he says, I'm going to the bank, why would she not believe him? But how is that an alibi when she wasn't at the bank with him and really can't say 100% either way whether he was there or not?
There's no way to confirm it.
So I guess it's more around, what do you actually call an alibi? Is it really an alibi or just a statement made by someone who believes this is what happened? And to me, those are two very different things. To me, an alibi is something that proves you were doing this X, right, at the time that the crime was committed. And I don't think we always have that. I don't think alibi is always used that way. I think it's a very loose term in some cases.
You know, I never really thought like that, but you're right.
Well, and I'm going by, some of the cases that we've done where it's later been proven that a spouse has given an alibi, and then they've later said, you know what? I don't really know if that happened or not. That's what I believe happened. Or they say, it didn't happen that way at all. I lied because I wanted to protect my spouse. So I don't know. I think alibis are kind of one of those things where, what does it really mean? Gibbs, it would be no different than if before you got to the studio, you told me you stopped at the local gas station, or you stopped to see a movie for 2 hours, and police knocked on my door and they said, where was Mike Gibson during this 2 hour period? And I'd say he was at the movies.
Yeah, because I said so.
Because that's what you told me. Why would I not believe you? But that doesn't make me an expert. It doesn't make me right.
Yeah, you don't have the receipt showing me that was the movie. You don't have...
I wasn't there. I didn't see the movie. And even if you had the receipt, you could have bought a ticket, left, and had a free 2 hours. We've seen that in cases as well. So
we have seen it in a few cases.
I do think, I don't want to get on a rant about alibis, but I do think you have to be very careful. A lot of us are looking to take control of our health, and there's a lot of ways to do that. But one great way is to check GoodRx and finally stop overpaying for your prescription medication. One thing that I learned through GoodRx is that prescription prices can vary between pharmacies by as much as $100, meaning you're never sure what you're going to pay. Not only will GoodRx find you discounts, it will also let you compare and find the lowest prices at pharmacies near you like CVS, Kroger, Walgreens, Rite Aid, Vons, and more. So now you'll know what you're paying before you get to the pharmacy. And even if you have insurance or Medicare, GoodRx often beats your copay price. That's amazing. In fact, anytime you need to fill a prescription, just checking GoodRx could save you up to 80%. I've been using GoodRx for about a year now, and it has saved me money. That's just the simplest way to put it. It works, and it will save you money. So for simple, smart savings on your prescriptions, check GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/unsolved. That is goodrx.com/unsolved. goodrx.com/unsolved. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance. In 2021, GoodRx users saved an average of 79% on retail prescription prices. All right, Gibbs, can we talk about Best Fiends for a minute? Listen, the easiest way to say it for me is that this game is just plain fun. You and I talk about all the work that goes into putting out this podcast, and we need our downtime. Well, one of the ways that I choose to spend my downtime is by playing Best Fiends. There's a lot to love about this game. There are tons of cute characters to collect, that feeling of striving to get to the next level, the exhilaration of getting to that next level. Best Fiends is a mobile puzzle game that anyone can download and play. And it's a game that you can lose yourself in for a little while because you're having so much fun. The other thing that I really love about Best Fiends is that they're always adding new characters and challenging puzzles all the time. And they put on tons of fun events where you can win huge rewards in game. I've played this game a lot. I'm not going to lie. I'm over level 400 now, but it doesn't matter because with thousands of levels, you literally can play as long as you want and you'll never get bored. Download Best Fiends free today on the App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends. Hey folks, can we talk about health for a minute? Because there's nothing more important than taking care of yourself. Because if you're not feeling your best, you can't be your best. Sambucol helps you feel your best by supporting your immune system with premium black elderberry. Sambucol is the original black elderberry brand. So I know I'm getting immune support I can trust. I use Sambucol because I don't have time to miss work when I'm not feeling my best. These podcasts have to go out. So I take 1 or 2 Sambucol gummies every morning to help make sure I can keep doing what I need to do. And I love these gummies because they taste so good. They're like a little morning treat. I take them with my coffee to get my day started off right. They also have a ton of other formats to choose from, including syrups, drink powders, tablets, capsules, and more. They also have products for kids and babies as well. You can help support your entire family's immune systems with Sambucol. Get 15% off your next order of $9.99 or more at sambucolusa.com. Use code TCAT. That's 15% off your next order of $9.99 or more with the code TCAT. Janman lived in Garfield near the Tynong North dumping site in the 1950s and 60s. And even after he moved, it was said that he continued visiting friends.
So he had knowledge of the area?
Yeah, he definitely had knowledge of the area. He also worked as a part-time bartender at the Tynong Hotel and drove a truck along the Brew Road route. For a time, he even worked at the Tynong North Sand Quarry. He had lived in Frankston for over a decade. When asked if he knew the location of Sky Road, he said, "I've never heard of it." But police later learned that he worked as a projectionist at the drive-in theater on Sky Road. So again, if all of this is true and some of this has come out from police, some of this is in reporting, but that's very strange. I've never heard of Sky Road, but I worked on Sky Road.
Strange, huh?
It's a head scratcher, right? When the police took Janman to the Tynong North Sand Quarry, where the bodies were found, he deliberately avoided walking near or looking at the exact spot where the women were found. According to The Age, one report stated he became nervous and sweated a lot. He walked around the sites as asked, but at no time did he walk in the immediate vicinity of where the bodies were lying. Harold Janman failed 2 lie detector tests. The police also noted that after his December 3rd, 1981 interview, the murder stopped. The Victoria police determined that Janman had the opportunity. As you said, he knew the area well, and he offered women rides while the killer was active. So I think based on all of that, it's pretty easy to see why many people view him as the most viable suspect.
Yeah.
But Harold Janman has never been arrested for this because there's no forensic evidence linking him to the murders. Over the years, he has repeatedly proclaimed his innocence. In March 2018, he spoke to Laura Turner from A Current Affair to declare his innocence. He said, "I couldn't kill an animal, let alone a person. I have never hated a person or disliked them enough to wish them dead and take their life." Okay, I get that statement. I don't believe I've ever hated someone or disliked them enough to want to see them dead or to want to take their life.
Yeah, it takes a different type of person to want that.
Yeah, I've had some severe animosity towards people, but at no time have I ever thought, "Oh man, I wish they were dead," or, anything like that. Investigators initially believed the 3 victims found near the sand quarry were killed by one individual, and that the 2 found at Sky Road were killed by a different individual. Some investigators believe that Narimal Stevenson was killed by a 3rd individual. She was left near the Tynong North site, but not in the same spot, and there was very little attempt to conceal her body. In 1985, the Bureau of Criminal Intelligence report concluded that 3 killers were most likely acting during the same time period. As reported by The Age, the report stated, "The only conclusion I can draw is that the persons responsible for the death of Rook and Summers at Frankston is or are not the same person or persons responsible for the deaths of Miller, Headland, and Sargent, and it is most likely that a 3rd person or persons was responsible for the death of Narimal Stevenson." The Bayside News said that the report talked about Harold Janman and said the dearth of physical evidence and eyewitness accounts linking him to either of the Frankston victims means that it is unlikely that he will ever be charged with any offense or eliminated as a suspect. The report concluded that if Harold killed the women, he was only responsible for the Frankston murders. So there's a lot to break down here, right? You've got this report that comes out and says, most likely we're looking at 3 different killers or groups of killers. And I think you said it before, Gibbs. What's more scary? That one person was killing all these people, or that you had 3 different individuals or groups of individuals committing murders in the same area at the same time, kind of in the same way? They're both very scary.
Very scary.
And then when the report talked about Harold Janman, I get what it is saying. They don't have the evidence, and it's probably unlikely that he'll ever be charged, but it's also very unlikely that he'll ever be eliminated as a suspect. And this is something that I think hangs over the heads of many people. You may be a killer. We can't prove it. You may not be a killer, but we also can't eliminate you.
Exactly.
So, hey, just walk around for the rest of your life with this cloud hanging over your head and people looking at you on the street, maybe not giving you a job because you may or may not be a serial killer. Your name is in this report. Now, I have no idea about Harold Janman. I do think that he's suspicious. I'll say that at the very least. But I do think there are a lot of people in a lot of cases where maybe in some instances, many years later, it comes out that they find the real killer or killers. But for years and years and years, they were looking at this person or that person, their name's in the paper. They're saying, well, we can't charge them. We don't have enough, but we can't eliminate them. I get it. But man, that would really stink to be that person when you know in your heart that you didn't commit these crimes. And later on, it's proven that you didn't because they got the right person or persons.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
It would be very tough.
It would affect your life negatively in a very major way. But the Bureau of Criminal Intelligence revoked this conclusion in a 1990 review. This later review concluded that the same person might be responsible for 5 murders, but there was insufficient evidence to make a conclusion about Narimal Stevenson. And we talked about it, right? The circumstances around her disappearance and murder were different. She was kidnapped outside the area at a different time of day than the other victims. She disappeared around the same time, but her body wasn't found until much later. And the killer had taken quite a bit of time to hide the other women's bodies, but Narimal was found very, very close to the main road. Her body wasn't really concealed at all.
Yeah, like they were in a hurry to get rid of the body.
Yeah, so there were some stark differences in her case versus some of the other victims. Now, there's one theory that the killer was going to take her to the sand quarry, but for whatever reason, they got scared off. They figured, okay, I've got to get rid of this body quickly, and therefore didn't have the time that they were able to take in, concealing the bodies of some of the other victims. So according to this later review, they're not saying most likely 3 different killer or killers, but they are saying there could be 2, right? 2 suspects may have killed victims in Frankston and Tynong North. According to the Bayside News, the review described Harold Janman as a viable suspect with weak or non-existent alibis. So again, I think once they did that review, they're saying some of the same things that we said.
Sure.
Weak, non-existent, can't be proven. I mean, I think you can put all of those into the same bucket. This report determined the murders were connected, and on the information available, Janman is the best nominated suspect for the offenses. So that's pretty damning. Not damning in a way that, this guy's likely to be charged, because from my knowledge, they don't have what they would need to charge him, or they would have already done it, obviously. But, to come out in this type of review and make that statement, I think it really says something. Now, what does it say? Best nominated suspect, most likely. Well, what does that really mean? If you had 5, 7, 9, 10 different suspects, some were very weak, but Harold Janman is the strongest.
Exactly.
That's what I believe they're saying. But really, besides that, what does it mean?
Doesn't really tell us much more than
they
that.
can't do anything about it.
Right.
In 2017, the Victoria police announced they were looking for one suspect in all 6 murders. It was said, Gibbs, that they have interviewed over 2,000 people since the 1980s. Also in 2017, family members spoke with ABC Australia after the police increased the reward. Keith Rook, Allison's son, said, "We've had a traumatic time, and it's a sad way to lose our mom, but we would love to see some finalization." Peter Sargent, Anne-Marie's brother, said, "Even now, we are hopeful that it will get solved because the pain for us is really still there on a day-to-day basis in the background. It's not going to go away for us. It's not going to bring her back, but at least we know that it's been solved." And again, this is the thing that strikes me in all of these cases.
Yeah.
You have 6 people who lost their lives, but you have this branch of family members of each of the victims, and they continue to suffer to this day. And I think that one comment really sums it up. The pain for us is really still there on a day-to-day basis in the background. It's not going to go away for us. It never will. I don't care what happens. If they solve the case, that would be great. It's not going to bring their loved ones back. There's still going to be pain. I just don't think, Gibbs, it's something that you ever get over. The murder of a family member. Now, I can't speak from experience, thankfully, but I have talked with a lot of our listeners. They've shared some things with us over the years. So I have been able to get a sense of what it's like. So I can speak through them.
Sure.
And, pretty much everyone I've talked to has said something very, very similar. On August 26, 2020, Harold Janman died at the age of 88. He professed his innocence until the very end. And why would he not? Now, a lot of people say, well, what does it matter? You're on your deathbed. Why not give the family some closure?
Well, maybe he really didn't have anything to do with it.
Maybe not. But even if he did, this is a guy who was thought to have been a family man, a religious man. Would he really want to destroy his legacy? Would he want to destroy, the lives of his family by coming out and saying, you know what? Yep, that was me. I did all those things. I killed all those women. Why? He had, if it was him, he had gotten away with it for, many, many, many years. 40 years.
So
almost 40 years.
So why at this point?
Yes.
Right.
There's nothing to be gained. Now, there are some people who would make the argument that it would clear his conscience, things like that. I don't know if for most people that overrides all the negative stuff. Destroying the memory that your family members would have of you for the rest of their lives.
I think his conscience was probably clear for him to continue to live as long as he did without ever admitting anything, if he was guilty. I think in his mind, he justified whatever he did so he could keep continuing on if he was guilty.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. I don't think that, some of these really nasty serial killers sit around, worrying about what they've done or, that it eats at them. I'm sure some experience that, but I think the vast majority don't experience that the way that most of us would.
I don't think they really care.
I think for a lot of us, if we cheated on a test or we stole somebody's work at our place of employment and, used it and passed it off as our own, our conscience would eat at us. It would drive us, up the wall. And that's nowhere near, the severity of taking the life of another person. I just think some of these people are wired very, very differently. That's what I truly believe. The Tynong North and Frankston murders are known as the 40-year murder mystery. The Victoria police are currently offering a $6 million reward for information, $1 million for each victim. And we said it up front, Gibbs, $6 million. I continue to be blown away by the emphasis that the Australian authorities place on reward money. And I think it's amazing because we all know money talks, money gets things done. It takes large chunks of money sometimes to entice somebody to roll over on somebody else.
Yeah.
Whether it's to overcome loyalty, to overcome fear of retribution. I mean, you can tick down a list of different things. $6 million will help you clear a lot of hurdles in making the decision to come forward to tell what you know. But that only works if someone other than the killer knows about it.
Right.
Now, if you have one of these smart killers who doesn't feel the need to brag about it or, bring somebody else in on what they're doing, if you have a lone serial killer, well, you're not going to get anybody.
Right.
Serial killer's not going to come forward and say, hey, it's me. Where's my $6 million?
Exactly.
First of all, they're not going to give them the $6 million.
No.
They're just going to slap the cuffs on them. So in August 2020, Catherine Miller Reed, daughter of Catherine's friend Vicki Miller Reed, had the old pictures of the victims remastered and digitized to bring new life to the case. Cheryl Goldsworthy, Catherine's best friend, told 9 News, "How dare they take her from us and the other people? I can't comprehend how people are so cruel. I don't believe the killer could be quiet and not tell anyone. I hope that his time is coming, and it's coming soon. And he should be behind bars. He should have been behind bars many years ago. Someone's coming for him, and someone's got to say something." And I believe all of that is true with the caveat that I just said, right? You could have one of these very private, lone serial killers who doesn't communicate with other people, keeps to themselves, doesn't share information. Well, then maybe there is nobody else that knows what this person has done. Now, we also talked about Harold Janman dying, a couple of years ago. If it really was him, he lived his life to the age of 88, almost 40 years free. If he really was, part of this and,
right.
and had something to do with it. Now, they may come up with evidence at some point that, let's say, kind of proves he did it, but they can't do anything to him. Obviously, the guy is dead. She went on to say, "It changed us all. We thought we were safe. There was a group of us and we always stuck together. It shocked me and it shocked us all. It still does. It dictated how I raised my children. And I know it also had the same effect on her other friends and their daughters." And again, this is something that we do talk about, whether it's a case that's very close to you, meaning, you knew the person that was killed. That's going to have a profound effect on you. And as she said, it's going to have an effect on how you raise your children.
Yeah.
You are definitely going to be on guard.
Oh, for sure.
Even more so than you probably would have been had you not had this experience. We see the same thing with, big murders in small towns, right? It changes the town. It changes how parents in that town
treat their kids
or the freedoms that they allow their kids. There's just no way around it. The Tynong North and Frankston killer broke traditional stereotypes, leaving investigators confused and desperately searching for answers. They kidnapped women in broad daylight, in public places, and on busy roads. They made little effort, in some cases, to conceal the bodies. They kidnapped and murdered women in a wide age range. Some of the victims appeared to have been sexually assaulted, others did not. So, there are some questions to be asked as we wrap up this episode, Gibbs. Was the killer a hardened criminal who committed crimes of opportunity? Or were they someone who lived in the community, blended in well with the community, and appeared to everyone else to be a normal person? Because I think there are a couple of different types of killers, and we've seen many of them on True Crime All the Time, right? You've got the model father businessman,
right,
who everybody looks at and says, man, this guy's got it together.
He's a great guy, man.
He's a great guy. He helps me shovel my driveway when the snow hits. He helps me bring in my groceries. And then later on, you find out that the guy's murdered 5, 10, 15 people. And everybody is shocked in the neighborhood. And then you have people who are known to have been killers. And maybe they got out. Maybe they got off on a technicality, whatever it is. We just don't know. What we do know is that over 40 years have passed since the women were murdered in Tynong North and Frankston, but the case is still active and open. It's very possible that the killer may no longer be alive to face their charges, but the victims' families still deserve answers. These murders may never be solved if no one is willing to come forward. I think, Gibbs, and this is true in every case, every year that passes, in some ways, we get further and further away from the possibility of finding answers, right? You talk about people who may know something dying,
right?
The actual perpetrators dying. But in other ways, in some cases, we get closer to finding answers because of the advancements in technology. It's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
As time passes, there are some good things that come about, but there are also a lot of negative things that can happen. People's memories fade. The one person that may have known, besides the killer, what happened and who was involved, they may have passed away. Right? When you get 40 years on after a series of murders, okay, you start to think it's very plausible that people start to get into their 70s and 80s, right? If they were in their 30s or 40s when they were doing this, or they knew who was doing this, they're now getting up there in age.
Yeah.
So, but that's it for the case of the unsolved Tynong North and Frankston murders. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear those.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Bee calling. I've called a few times from Portland, Maine, and I'm calling with a case suggestion. I'm sure that you've heard of this case or that people have requested it, so she may be on your list, but this is for Unsolved, and it's the disappearance of Ayla Reynolds, who was 19 months old when she disappeared from Waterville, Maine back in 2011. She was at her father's home, which I think was actually his mother's. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So she was home with 3 adults, and they say she was put to bed at 8 p.m. and then the next morning she was missing. When they went to check on her, has not been seen since. Back in a couple of years ago, I can't remember exactly what year, I think 2017 or 18, her mother had her declared legally deceased because there's been no sign of her. There's been people searching for her for years, and there's a lot to the case, so I know it's a lot to research, and it might take a while, but I thought it might be a good case suggestion. Anyway, thank you guys so much for all that you do, and keep your own time ticking. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Thanks for the voicemail. Thanks for the suggestion. We'll definitely look into it. Make sure it's on the list.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. I was listening to the Unsolved about 148 or 149 or something, somewhere in there. And some people called and wanted y'all to guess their accent, guess where they were from their accent. I don't think I have an accent at all. People say I do, but I don't think I do. So, I would like for y'all to settle it once and for all. Do I have an accent? And if so, where do I live? Love you guys. Keep your own time ticking.
Ooh, a mystery, Gibbs. You go first.
Definitely have an accent. I'm going to say West Virginia.
Okay, you're going with West Virginia.
Yeah.
So I hear an accent too. I'm also putting on my detective hat. I'm going with the y'all. So I'm thinking more south. But it doesn't sound like Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina to me. It sounds more like Oklahoma, Texas.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to go Texas because Texas is a bigger state and I got my odds are better. That's what I'm going with.
See who wins.
I don't know how we're going to find out. She's going to have to call back or send me an email to let us know if either of us are right.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. This is Rob from Minnesota. You always said that, Minnesota. Hey, please don't ever do any more podcasts about our state because I can't listen to you say Winona one more time. It's Winona. And Gibby, why didn't you correct him? He always corrects you every time you say something. And Gibby, you're the best. You need to have your own. And you're okay too, Mike. So once again, this is Rob from Minnesota. Hey, guys, you do it right or else next time, I'm going to make fun of your accents, too. Okay. All right. Keep your on time ticking, and eat some lutefisk. Okay, thanks. Bye.
So I knew I was going to get something about that city. I knew I was going to pronounce it right. The answer to his question, though, of why you don't correct me is you would have to know the correct answer.
I would.
To be able to correct me. And so neither of us knew it for sure. So we went with what we thought it was. But I get the blame for it because I'm the one talking the most. Even though, you and I kind of talk it out, try to figure out how we're going to say it. But nobody hears that part.
They never do.
They never do.
No.
So you're off.
Why.
So you're off the hook, and you get to be the good guy.
That's how it works
at all times. All right. No, appreciate the voicemail. All right, that's it, buddy, for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Watch Yellowstone for free on Pluto TV. All this weekend, Pluto TV is streaming a marathon of seasons 1 to 3 of Yellowstone, the show The Wrap calls a smash hit series. Pluto TV also has hundreds of channels and thousands of movies and TV shows like Mission Impossible 3, Gladiator, CSI, and more. Absolutely free. So download the free Pluto TV streaming app and watch Yellowstone seasons 1 to 3 free.